Hey kids, it's Mr. Fly here, hope you're well. Super excited today because I've got my hands on another long-term loan bike from KTM. This is the brilliant 1290 Super Adventure S. And if you stick around and stay tuned for the next few minutes, I'm going to tell you my top 5 things that I love about the bike. So to number 5 on my list then of the things that I love about the KTM 1290 Super Adventure S. Bit of a mouthful. And the first thing that I thought is worth mentioning is the kind of kudos that you get with this bike. Basically, it's not a GS, and it seems like that, you know, people in the know, other motorcyclists, maybe ex-sports bikes riders, those sort of people, they just seem to love the KTM, and they seem to respect the fact that you're riding an adventure bike, but it's not a GS. So I feel like a bit of a turncoat saying that, because clearly I'm a GS owner and I love the GS, but I have noticed that, you know, there is a bit of a stigma with those things. People don't nod at you, and you know, you get some dislike comments, would you believe, on videos that I do about the GS. So number 5 on my list of the top 5 things I love about the KTM is the fact that it's a KTM, that it's quite rare, not many people have these bikes yet, and therefore there's some kudos with it. The cachet that comes with having the KTM, I think, probably just tips having something like the GS. So that's number 5 on my list. It's not a GS. Man, this bike's got some go for a big machine. Anyway, but that's not number 4 on my list, because number 4 on my list is something that crops up quite a bit these days with modern bikes. Because number 4 on my list of the top 5 things I love about the KTM Super Adventure is its electronics package. This thing is absolutely laden with the latest in motorcycling technology. Things like it's got lean sensitive ABS, not something I've tested, but actually when you lean around a corner you can give it a handful of brake and it will know when it can't give you all the brakes, and the thing stands up. So lean angle ABS, absolutely brilliant. And while I'm talking about lean angles, the front light as well, the lights on here are absolutely fabulous. I've mentioned KTM lights many times before and how much I like them. But not only does this one do a great job of lighting up the way ahead and also looks good, but actually always an opportunity to overtake. It really is not an issue to overtake on this bike. And yeah, the other thing I was going to say is the front light on this, when you're riding at night and you go around a corner, it actually lights into the corner. The more you lean, the more it lights. Absolutely incredible. So things like that are just amazing. Of course, it's got traction control as well. It's got things like heated grips, and even the TFT screen is lovely on this, of which more about that later. So yeah, the electronics package, in particular the rider aids, are what make number 4 on my top 5 things that I love about the KTM 1290 Super Adventure. So to number 3 on my list of the top 5 things that I love about the KTM Super Adventure. No, it's not its proclivity to attract white vans. Look, I'm behind 2 vans here again. It's just every time I come out, I don't know. But anyway, I digress. So number 3 on my list is something that I'm not doing a very good job of demonstrating here on this relatively straight road, but it's the handling on the bike, the lightweight handling. I mean, it's a big old heavy motorcycle, this, but compared to other adventure motorcycles, it's not actually that heavy. But the way that they've kept the weight low down in the bike really means that the handling is quite lovely. Things like the BMW GS have a bit of a natural advantage in this one, where the Boxer of course has its cylinders low down, so the GS is always going to probably trump it as far as low centre of gravity is concerned. But they've done some clever work with tilting the engine and so on in the KTM, and it certainly doesn't feel top heavy at any time. If you ride bikes like the Triumph Explorer, the big one, and also even the Ducati Multistrada, for me personally, I found those a little bit top heavy and always felt that they might topple over whenever I stopped. No such problems with the KTM Super Adventure. It always feels nicely balanced, either when you're stopped or indeed when you're riding. The handling on this thing is just superb. Partly helped, of course, by the brilliant suspension on it, which is the semi-active type. But really, really nice ride on here. Nice and lightweight. It feels flickable, the bike. There's no muscling it around corners. The thing just goes where you point it. And I know it's a cliche to say it has, you know, superbike handling, but it really isn't that far off. Coupled with its incredible engine, the handling on this bike is absolutely lovely. So that's number 3 on my list of the top 5 things I love about the KTM 1290 Super Adventure S. Okay, so we're getting to the serious end of my list now as we come to number 2 on my top 5 list of things I love about the KTM Super Adventure. And number 2 is something that's kind of staring you in the face all the time. I've mentioned before about how much I like the TFT displays on the KTM machines. In fact, I like them on all the bikes that I've ridden that have them. But KTM in particular do a nice job of making them very clear and easy to see, I think. Well, on the Super Adventure, they've done an even better job, or rather I should say on the Super Adventure S, and also on the R, I think it is. It's the T that has the old instrumentation, so probably best avoid that if you're a fan of these. But on the R and the S, you get this massive TFT screen. This is 6.5 inches across, so it makes it the biggest TFT I've ridden with for sure. If on things like the Super Duke R and the smaller Duke motorcycles, if the screen on that looks like a little iPhone, this one looks more like a mini iPad. Which means they can do a really good job of designing the layout. So I love the look of this particular setup I've got here at the moment, with the rev counter around the outside with the big speed there, and you can actually, you know, you can customise this to put on it what you like. I've got it quite busy at the moment with all sorts of stuff written down here, but really like it. And just things like the fact that you can hook it up to your mobile phone. So on here I'm showing how much battery I've got left in my phone, together with what the phone signaler is, for example. And there's all sorts of stuff you can do on here. It's easy to use, it's easy to see. If there's any downside to it, it's the fact that it is a little bit too sensitive in going from light to darkness. When you ride under trees and stuff, it goes into night mode too quickly for my liking. But small point in terms of its clarity, is an absolute winner. So number 2 on my list is the massive 6.5 inch TFT screen on the KTM. Okay, so it's time for the big one. Cue the drum roll, because number 1 on my list of the top 5 things I love about the KTM 1290 Super Adventure S really is going to be absolutely no surprise to you whatsoever. It's the same thing that I loved about its sporty brother, the Super Duke R, and that is its absolutely stonking engine. The engine on this machine is amazing, 165 brake horsepower, and it's just got loads of go. For a bike this big, it just really shouldn't be as quick as it is. It's an amazing piece of kit. I've only got this in street mode at the moment, and it also has you know, a race mode as well. But in street mode, the thing is absolutely stonking. And when I get a clear bit of road, hopefully I'll be able to demonstrate that to you. Here we go, it's an overtaking opportunity, nothing behind. It just makes such short work of overtaking. When you've got a small gap, as I had a relatively small gap there, you can just nip by traffic super quickly, and it gets you out of the danger zone very easily. For cruising and for touring, you just know you've got loads and loads of engine grunt there if you need it. If you need to get somewhere fast on an autobahn, then I imagine, I've not been on an autobahn on this, but you could wind this thing up and absolutely eat the miles in no time at all. Another overtaking opportunity. And you're very quickly up to stupid speeds, and you have to keep your eye actually on the speedo to make sure you're not getting into stupidly illegal realms too quickly. But it's a nice problem to have. And the other great thing about it, not only is the engine super fast, but even riding the thing at slow speeds around town and so on, it doesn't complain, it doesn't judder. It's easy to ride at slow speeds as well. The engine is very, very tractable. If you want to, you can ride it really lazily and just not bother to change gear, because there's so much torque on it. The thing will just ride you out away from any problem without really having to change down. What a treat to see another white van. So there we have it. That's my top 5 things that I love about the KTM 1290 Super Adventure S. It is a stonking adventure bike, and it's one that's kind of got me somewhat in a tiz, because as you may know if you watch my videos regularly, I'm a big fan of the BMW GS, and I own one of those myself. But this bike really is up there and possibly surpasses it in a number of areas, and if I were buying a big adventure bike now, this one would certainly be in my top 2 to consider, possibly in the top 1. Something I need to think a little bit more about. Anyway, I hope you found that of some interest. I look forward to speaking to you next time. Until then, this has been the Mr. Flyer. Cheerio.